Hi guys, it's Aoife from Fred We See Died Laughing and I'm here with my weekly wrap up. I got 4 books read this week. One of them was a novella and another was an audiobook that I've been listening to for a few weeks. So not my most successful reading week ever, but I am reading a very thick, heavy non-fiction at the moment, and that has definitely slowed my reading down a bit, but I am enjoying it, so that's the main thing. First book I read this week was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. This is really a booktube favourite, and it's one that I have always kind of been vaguely interested in, but I've always kind of shied away from, because while I do enjoy the Throne of Glass books, I've read the first 2, and while I enjoy them, I just feel like they're really kind of overhyped. And Sarah J Maas, her writing in it, she's very much like, she's telling us what these characters are like, rather than actually showing us what they're like, and it kind of annoys me sometimes. And if you're giving me a badass character, I want to see them do badass things kind of way, and that has always kind of irritated me with the Throne of Glass series. So I've always been a little bit hesitant in picking this one up, even though I've heard some really, really good things about it. And because I was picking up, I was reading this non-fiction book that was quite heavy, I was like, okay, I just want something kind of lighter, and it's just going to be really, really fun. And for some reason I was like, I want to read a Sarah J Maas book. Absolutely love this. This has become probably one of my favourite books of the year. So this is about a girl called Feyre who is living in this land that kind of borders this land that fairies live in, called Prythian. And basically what she does is, one day when she's out hunting, her family are very poor and she has to hunt to basically try and keep them alive, both for food and to sell hide and game and stuff like that. And she kills this wolf that she sees in the forest, even though she knows there is a chance that this wolf could be a fairy, and that could have very bad consequences for her, but she just has to do it, otherwise her family might not survive the winter. So she does that, and then a few days later there's not really a knock, there's a crashing at their cabin, and this fairy comes in and says that she has killed one of his friends, and she needs to give him her life in return for his friends who she's taken. So instead of killing her, this fairy, whose name is Tamlin, ends up bringing her to his estate to basically live for the rest of her life. So it's a little bit of Beauty and the Beast-esque, but everything about this book I just absolutely loved. I loved Feyre as a character. She is just very badass. She has a lot of she's just got a lot of character to her. She's not like weak, a lot of strength to her, which I really, really loved. And I love that she had passions other than, yes, she hunted and she killed to help her family, but it's not something that she really wanted to do. She loves to paint, and she's never had the opportunity really to be able to explore that. The other fairy characters in this, and the way the courts are kind of explained, and the kind of the glimpses we have of the other fairies in this, some of them are like, very dark and very dangerous, and others are beautiful, and there's just so much to this world I really, really loved. And we've only just, because obviously this is the first book in a series, so we're only just getting like a tiny glimpse of the world in this book, and I absolutely loved the tiny glimpse that I got. I loved the romance in this. It's very slow burn. It's a little bit like, this is definitely more adult than young adult. There are definitely some scenes in it that are a little bit hot and heavy, not too bad, I wouldn't say they're like extremely graphic or anything, but I did enjoy those scenes as well. I enjoyed that it was a little bit more adult than young adult in that sense, because obviously I would relate to that more now. And just the Beauty and the Beast nods in this were just so genius. Just these really yes, okay, there's that whole thing that he brings her to a state, and she has to live out the rest of his life. That's a big thing. And obviously he's a little bit of a beast, where she is more of a beauty. But there were just other scenes, there was a scene of when she was being hunted in the woods, and it's so similar to the wolves in Belle in the forest. And then there was another scene, which I won't spoil at, but there is this other scene that involves drops of light, like the last scene we know of in Beauty and the Beast, and it was obviously an ode to that scene, and it was just so brilliant. I thought that scene was absolutely excellent. So I absolutely love this. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars, and I cannot wait to read the next one. And one of the things I loved actually reading about this as well is because I've heard the names and I've heard bits and pieces about this book for so long, and there were a lot of names like Rhysand, who I knew about, and I knew that people really loved him, and then he was coming into the book, and from first impressions I was like, but why do people like him? I don't understand it. And then you gradually come to realise why people like him so much, and I'm excited to read more and find out why people love him. But yeah, just knowing all the characters and knowing what I know, what people have already liked about the characters, was just a really interesting experience for me. And reading it so long after other people have read it, and after hearing about it so much, was just a really interesting experience for me, and it was actually a really positive one, and I really enjoyed that, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. And yeah, I am a Court of Thorns and Roses stan now. I get it. I love it. And because I was a bit on like a fairy theme, I decided to continue on with some fairy books because obviously Queen of Nothing by Holly Black is coming out next week, and I do want to read The Cruel Prince and The Wicked King, or reread them before that comes out as well, so you'll probably be seeing a vlog or that in my wrap up next week. But I decided to pick up Tithe? I don't know, I actually don't know how to say that word, by Holly Black, which is I think one of her very, very first novels, and it's also set in kind of fairyland. And we are following a girl called Kay. Completely forgot her name there. Her name is Kay. This girl called Kay who moves back to where her grandma's from, and to live with her grandma because her and her mum have gotten kicked out from where they were living, and they have to go back to the grandma. And Kay, from when she was a child, was able to see fairies, and people always obviously said that she was imagining it, but she knows that she was able to see fairies, that this was real. She's always kind of been able to do like things, or just like she has a really wild imagination basically, and she's always been like a little bit different, and she goes back now as like a teenager to this place, and she starts realizing that she is a little bit more than what she seems. And then she also ends up discovering this fairy in the woods near her house who needs help, and she ends up helping him, and he kind of becomes like in her debt because of that. And things kind of go from there, where she kind of stumbles back into the fairy world that she knew when she was younger, and she finds out a lot more about it now, and her involvement in that world as well, and how she can continue to be part of that world. This, like, one of the great things about this is knowing Holly Black's writing now, and kind of the world she's developed in The Cruel Prince and with fairies and elf fame and stuff like that, and seeing where kind of she started off with this one. Like, I feel like there's definitely kind of remnants of what she's writing now in this, and the type of fairies that she's writing, the seelie and the unseelie and the evil, and you know, the different types of fairies. But the writing of this one is so poor compared to that, and you can know it's definitely, you can see writing improves over time, and this is a very, very early 2000s YA fairy book. Like, this is a book of its age. It's not something that would really do well now. It reminded me a lot of the Wicked Lovely series by Melissa Marr, which was one I loved when I originally read it years ago, and when I reread it I wasn't as much of a fan of it, but this one kind of reminds me that same type of era, that the Wicked Lovely era. This is very much that as well. The characters aren't particularly nice in this. They're all like smokers and shoplifters and kind of rough and ready, but like not in a particularly nice way either. And there's a character in this called Cornelius, and Kay kind of is friends with him, and he's known as Corny. And there is a scene with him at the very start where he kind of makes like, not really a joke, but kind of like as if he kind of thinks about, like, he genuinely thinks about like shooting people, as if he wanted to commit a mass shooting, and he has this thought process about that, and it's like really, really like quick, and it's only like kind of one or a couple of lines in the book, but it made me feel really uncomfortable. And I was like, I kind of presumed that he was going to be like this villainous character because of that, but then he wasn't, and I was like, okay, so we're actually supposed to like this character even though he was thinking about killing people in that way. Like, that's really weird, and that made me quite uncomfortable. And then there's also a lot of references to the word Oriental in here, because Kay is supposed to be half Asian. I think her father was supposed to be Asian and her mother is Caucasian, so she is supposed to be biracial, and she's supposed to have Asian features with blonde hair, and the word Oriental is used to describe her a lot, and she uses the word Oriental as well, and as far as I know that's not supposed to be a particularly okay word to use, but yeah, that word is used a lot in this book, and it kind of was a bit okay. The thing is I didn't hate this book. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. I just think it's of its time, and maybe I think if I had read this 10 years ago when I was 16, I probably would have loved it. It just, you know, it didn't age as well as other books have, and you know, you can definitely see where Holly Black has improved in her writing as well, which is a good thing to see as well. So I gave this like a low 3 out of 5 stars, and it was fine, but I will actually probably continue with the other books in this trilogy, because the next book, Valiant I think it's called, the premise of that one kind of interests me, so I do want to maybe pick that up from the library or somewhere, or if I see it, and give it a go. The next book I finished was my audiobook. That was The Ask and the Answer by Patrick Ness. This is the second book in the Chaos Walking series. The first book is called The Knife of Never Letting Go. Completely forgot that name there. This basically follows this boy called Todd who lives in this planet. It doesn't seem to be Earth, it seems to be a different planet. This planet where all men, their thoughts can be heard out loud, so everyone can hear each other's thoughts. And in the first book, Todd is nearing his 13th birthday, which is apparently supposed to be this big birthday, is when he becomes a man. And he ends up finding this girl. And the thing is that Todd has grown up in a village where all the women died from a mysterious illness years and years and years ago when he was a baby. And he's actually one of the youngest people in his village now, because there have been no babies born since then. And he ends up coming across this girl, and he can't hear her thoughts. So you can't hear women's thoughts in this world. And he ends up kind of in this kind of life and death situation with this girl called Viola, and they end up having to kind of fight for their lives. And Todd learns a lot more about the world that he's living in and events before when he was a baby, and what Viola knows, because she is actually from ships in the sky, rather than, she hasn't grown up on this planet the way Todd has. And yeah, they kind of learn a lot about each other, and this is the follow on to that. The first book ended on a real cliffhanger, so I was very excited to kind of I was excited to kind of continue on and see what happened in this book. And this book was fine. I think these are very similar for me. This trilogy is very similar to the Sabriel trilogy by Garth Nix for me, where I like it, it's fine. The writing isn't terrible, but it's nothing that lights me on fire. It's nothing that excites me. I don't get really, like, I'm not super duper into it. I'm just reading it to finish it. I'm just reading it just for the sake of reading it. I'm not particularly reading it because I absolutely love the story, or I'm absolutely gripped to the story. There wasn't a point in this book where I was listening to it and all I wanted to do was listen to it. I was kind of, oh well, I only have so much left, I might as well continue listening to this audiobook. It's not something that I'm completely gripped to, and I'll probably wait a while maybe before going on to Monsters and Men, which is the third book, because at the moment I'm just a little bit like whatever about the trilogy. It's fine, as I said, it's just not one particularly for me. Yeah, I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. And the last book I read this week was a novella. That was Oberon by James S.A. Corey. This is a novella in the Expanse series, so this is like 8.5 I think in the series. So this follows on basically on this type of planet, colonized planet, and we are following a particular type of government who are in charge, who have come into this planet and have taken over it. And they have this, we're following this governor who comes in to kind of basically be the governor of this planet, this new governor, and he has to figure out how to govern planet best. And he finds out there's some sort of like crime gang who are kind of in charge of this planet, and kind of, or in particularly the city, who are very good at what they do, and he kind of needs to figure out how he's going to treat them, and how he's got, and they're trying to figure out how they can basically get him under their thumb so they can rule, you know, or they can do whatever they want without having the governor, you know, arrest them or mess up their plans. We are following a couple of characters, or not a couple, we're following one character who we met at some point in another book, a previous book. So if you're reading this, I would Google the older character in this who is kind of part of the crime gang. Just so you know who he is, because you might not know first off, because I was like, I definitely feel like I know who this character is, I'm just not 100% sure. And then I googled it and I was like, oh, it's that character, I remember that character now. And because there are a lot of characters in this world, there are a lot of books, there are a lot of characters. I really enjoyed this one for what it was, which is a 70-page novella in this world. It was just a little quick story. It was really nice just to get back into this world, because I love the world of The Expanse, and it actually made me want to reread Tiamat's Wrath already. Even though I only read that in March, I already want to reread Tiamat's Wrath, and I think I might do that in January or February, because I definitely feel like I want to reread it and just remember everything that happened and refresh my mind again for whenever the next book does come out. But for fans of The Expanse, this is definitely one to pick up. I definitely just enjoyed it, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. So that's everything I've read this week. Please let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.